All right, Panozo, I'm turning off all the matches right now so I can give you my undivided attention because Poole has had my attention since
3 o'clock this morning.
3:30ish. 3:30. I slept the first few minutes, but and then I slept in the middle of it. And let's start off with that because in the middle of it this morning to start off the event, I get up, James goes on a run, and I wake up to it being not wake up to, but at around 5:00, I said I'm going back to bed. I'm catching some Z's.
Yeah.
I went to bed as it was 6:00. Woke up, it was 9:03. I said, it's over with. It's a wrap. James is gonna win. The Woo story's over. And then Mike,
And then the comeback. Yeah. Wu did some Wu stuff. I saw some of the highlights that he was pretty monster. Um, on the hill, he had to jump to two and draw back for the three.
clutch, Mike,
And
clutch.
yeah, and it was not all that close. And he just, he never even considered any other option. He was going for the house. So it was pretty much sink or swim. And
Oh yeah. I mean, you're completely putting the weight on the match on your shoulders because you're not
yeah,
going to give anything a chance. And there's not many players that um, have that confidence or immediately think that like they don't got that Jordan in them. You know what I mean, Mike?
yeah,
You
right,
you you
right. Well, you have to
you're
have that.
from Chicago. You know what I mean?
And I'm old. So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, and you have to. It's one of those situations where you have to own the situation. You can't think you're going to go for it, and you hope you make it. Whatever, you just go in there, and he just looked like he had no thought in his head that wasn't going in, and he drew back perfect on the three to get out. So it was an amazing comeback by Wu. It was another instance of James Aranis having his foot on someone's throat and easing up a little bit. I didn't see enough
I
of
don't know if
every
I
rack
don't know if
to
that's the
know if
word.
he,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if that's if he gave away a lot of racks in there or whether he got run out on a lot. But
I, I can't just speak from generalizations here on past history because as my daughter's yelling at me in the background because James James was at least in a position to close somebody out, but
yeah,
there's a difference between dogging it or not getting across the finish
right,
line versus someone just if you gave them a chance they took it and then they ran with it. And some guys are just closers, Mike. We've seen it in sports, we've seen it in pool. That jump shot, especially at the end, was very. That's like there's not many players that are built like that because
yeah,
even even some of the even some of the like same level type players they would have pushed out, I feel like, to where it would have been a little bit easier of a jump and then play chicken with you to see, okay, who's gonna blink here first. Wu said, I'm not even gonna give you the chance, I'm
yeah,
taking it now. From it looked like it was real far, and usually when I see jumps that far it thinks, okay, there's a chance that ball may get a little too airborne and jump off the table, especially if you catch it a little thick on the hit. So but he executed, he put James away, and then you think, okay, well, this guy might end up going all the way and loses in a bit of a heartbreaker. Hill wins Hill against James, loses Hill against Yanni Uski from
yeah. And
Finland.
against Uski, he had a big lead. An early lead was winning the whole match. I think it was up 9-6. And let that one get away from him. So, again, that was not, I did not see that match other than scoreboard watching. So I don't know what happened, but yeah, that was, when you look at this round of 32, man, we said goodbye to a lot of players. We didn't think we were going to say goodbye to quite this early.
Well, the first goodbye was the shock when it comes to big players, and that was the number one overall seed, Mike. The
Yeah.
the pride of the red and yellow in FSR, and a lot of people, myself included, did not expect to see that gentleman go out in the round of 64, Mike.
No, no, and Solnaki of a couple of years ago, we'd have thought that's a pretty good shot. But the guy that we've
He's
seen the
an
last year
upsetter.
or
He
two,
can he can upset some names.
yeah, he can upset some, but he hasn't been as consistent or solid in the past year or so. And so that's a big win for him to win on the hill against Francisco. It had to be heartbreak for all the Spanish fans because I think that they were really, I was looking forward to an FSR run deep into the weekend. I thought that would have brought a lot more energy and fun to the arena, where the locals come out and really start, revving it up. And so that was a big, that took a lot of air out of the building, I'm sure. And then really David Alcade's the only, Spaniard left, and
His day,
he's
his day is looking to be close to done as he's down
yeah
7-2
he's down 7-2
uh
to Kachi,
to
to the
Kachi.
bigger Kachi.
Bigger, excuse me, my mistake. Yes, we need to differentiate now because there's a gentleman, Big Kachi, who we've dubbed Claudio, who's taking down Tyler right now, and it's far from over, but he's looking pretty poised in his own right, and yeah, Mike, it's that match with FSR was pretty surprising. We started off with I want to say around 60-ish Spaniards in the event. There was a lot of guys, including Pizarro, who I thought had a chance to upset Big Co to start the day. And I know it was a little neck and neck here or there throughout that
Yeah,
match from where I was scoreboard watching. But Fran going out like that, especially and I know the 9 ball was tricky, but when he had an open layout, you think,
yeah.
okay, we've seen this show before. We know what to expect from a
You
fan.
didn't expect the 9 to be tricky.
No,
You
you
just thought
thought
that
you
he
would
was
get
going
on
to
it, but he was hitting a lot of balls thick this event, Mike. I mean, a lot of balls like thick and hanging them up in the jaws of the pocket, and that's not something that we expect to see from someone who's been so surgical in
yeah,
Francisco.
yeah. Truly, I mean, he just didn't expect to see him go down. I don't know if there was any kind of he felt feeling any kind of pressure, or if he just wasn't hitting the ball well all week. What his, what's going through his mind now as far as analyzing his own performance. Um, we also saw who else went out in the round of 64.
Let's take a look here. Max Lechner loses Hill
Little
to
Cole,
Huang. Little Cole loses to Kazakis, a guy who
right?
we've dubbed as someone who can choke, for lack of a better phrase, Mike. Who can fold under pressure, and that's as solid as a win as you are if you're Alexander Kazakis, Mike.
Yeah, no, that's a good win for him, and that put him into the next round. Although then he went out, so a lot of these guys are making these big wins and then disappearing in the next round. Um, Chua lost in the round of 64. He was kind of a fancy player for a lot of people, especially once he put the hurting on Josh. Um,
Well,
and they would have
let me,
matched up in the next round again. It was funny.
well, let me tell you something, Mike. On that very bottom, you had four guys down there: Aloysius Yap, Josh Filler, Johan Chua, and Gangflot, who is the gentleman from Norway that you're
Right.
talking about. If you were to rank those four players, that gentleman from Norway would have been ranked number 4, Mike. And it would. As a matter of fact, he might have
Yeah.
been ranked. He might have been ranked number 10 out of those four players. Okay, if you're keeping it real as far as where you would rank him at. So he beats Johan Chua 10-9. Hill shows that he's clutch,
Right.
Mike.
Right.
Then you follow that up right now. Filler took apart Aloysius Yap in the round of 64.
Right.
Now he's got Filler stuck 7-3 in the round of 32. Mike,
Yeah.
you beat Chua and you beat Josh Filler from this type of score line. You might hello big stage. I'm here. I'm
Well,
not
you'd be
gonna,
looking at Dang in the next round. Whoever was that's looking at Dang in the next round.
look,
We were kind of
that was
looking forward to a
my dark horse, Mike. That was my dark horse.
Dang filler matchup was looking pretty juicy. So we'll see what happens there. Um,
It's easier to say now, but I told you this before we started. I said, man, when I watched a little bit of Gangflot's match, I think it was yesterday on the TV table, and it was a very small sample that I was able to catch. But in my head, I'm thinking that kid's pretty stout. He's hitting the ball really well and with a lot of confidence. Obviously, I would have never picked him to come out of those four guys down there,
right.
but he's backing it up. It's not going to get any easier because you beat Chua and Filler. It maybe to a lot of people you're gonna think, oh, he's beating these names, he's gonna be stealing against Dang. I guarantee you, he ain't stealing against Dang because from what I saw of Dang playing Sky, that guy is ready for a run, Mike. I truly believe it, just the way that he's breaking.
He must have looked pretty solid today too. He went through two opponents pretty handily. He's definitely going to be a threat going forward. The Portuguese player, big surprise
Joao.
moving into the 16.
No, without a doubt. I've seen the name on like Euro tours and stuff, Mike. You know, as I follow them, kind of scoreboard watch him, but by far his best performance on on a big event. You know, without a doubt. Um, Mario, you know, faces some demons and takes down Gary Wilson 10-6, only to
Yeah,
lose in round 32 to Naoki Oi in 10-7. Mike, is Oi gonna is Oi gonna snap one of these big events off? Because we've always thought that he had that kind of like Aloysius Yap kind of, I'm gonna hang around the last couple days, but
yeah, but
I
he's,
always get
Aloysius
there
Scrap is in his young 20s, in early 20s, and Naoki Oi is in his late 30s. So, a little difference in where they're at in their career arc, right? But would love to see him make a Final Four run. Would love to see him make a Final Four, but he's got, Big Co. So that's not going to get any easier for him.
Well, without a doubt. I mean, it's certainly not. And we all know how Co's hitting the ball, right? We've seen it from the World Pool Masters. We've seen it from the UK Open.
Yeah,
We've seen the score lines that he's been putting up. And as you pointed out, you know, you're going to start playing tougher opponents. Well, he wins 10-7 against Pizarro, which is the
right.
biggest amount of points that he's led up in one match, but wins 10-3 against Imran. And Imran's been playing very well in his own right, Mike.
Yeah,
Um,
Imran's. I looked again today, and I'm like, well, there he is in your final 32
Again,
again.
again, Mike, again. Every event for like the last, 2
Yeah,
years, that guy's always there around this same
around the same
area of.
32-16 area. Yeah,
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 absolutely. Yeah, just busting up favorites. But Copigny moves on. Usually, Mike, when we see, like, we'll tend to project, right? It's part of the being a donkeys that we are, being
yeah.
on here and talking. And a lot of times, more often than not, the projections don't come to fruition, right? We hope for things to happen, but they
I'm
never
waiting
really
for
do.
one to come to fruition. Well, I think we're like 0 for 2023.
At least, right? At least. Well, one of them came through because we said there's a good chance that Shane and Sky might face off in the round of 32, and that came to be Mike.
Yeah,
Sky takes down Ralph in pretty easy fashion. I think Shane did the same thing after being down like early,
Snagak.
like 2
Yeah,
0 to Snagaki or something, ends up winning outright from there. But what was your takeaway from that match, Mike? Because
it
if I
was a
know you, you watched quite a bit of it.
yeah, it was a pretty good match. It was just, it was game apart the whole way through. 4-5-5, 6-6, 7-7, 8-8. So it was, uh, you know, it was a fun match to watch. No real, there were a couple mistakes here and there, but it wasn't a sloppy match by any means. But Sky looks sharp. Sky looks really good. Shane was struggling a little bit on getting the ball on getting something to see after the break, and a lot of that led to the back and forth with the score because no one was really able to string together any racks.
Right.
But it's a good win for Sky. He keeps up, follows up where he was at in the UK Open. Now he's into the final 16. He's going to play the winner of Claudio Kachi and Tyler Steyer. So at this
Is
point, he's got to be the favorite to move on to the final 8. I mean, Kachi obviously is the flavor of the day, but you tell me Sky's not the betting favorite?
I'm not saying that, but before I answer that, is Sky Woodward the best American player right now, Mike?
He's playing like it, of course. Sky Shane is Shane. He can still reach the final of any tournament that he starts. He's not, his game hasn't slipped to the point where you think that he's not a threat anymore. But I think Sky this
Of
year
course, yeah.
has upped his game. I think, it's more a matter of where Sky's gone up more so to me than where Shane's gone down. So right now this year, yeah, I mean, the points prove it. The finishes prove it. He's playing great pool.
So you're going to equate it more to Sky like leveling up per se versus SVB kind of not living up to the bill.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen SVB look like he can't win can't win matches.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm
not.
not saying the guy can't run out a rack of 9 ball. That's not what I'm getting at all. You know,
But I thought
but
his match with Sky was a really good, solid match. They both played well. So I don't. I think Shane can still. He's
Shane can dab it up with anybody without a
yeah.
doubt. And
So
he's always
and we
he's
talked
still
about
intimidating.
Sky earlier in the year. We talked about is he going to step up this year? He was Joey's pick to step up this year and win a tournament, win a major, whatever.
A
And we
lot of
said,
guys picks Mike.
does he have the commitment to stick, to really, grind through all these big tournaments this year and be consistent. And that's the most encouraging thing to me, is that in these tournaments, he's consistently doing well.
I think Sky's the best American player. I'm gonna go out and say I'm not gonna be sugarcoating this shit like you are, Mike, and just
I'm not
beating around
sure.
the bush.
I'm saying that they're 1A.
No, yes, I'm gonna say it's Sky one and Shane number two, and it's listen. You can't have the age argument for one conversation and then not acknowledge the age argument in the second conversation, Mike.
Well,
Sky,
there's no doubt that Shane is not the 25-year-old Shane.
Well, yeah, of course, but I think that's part of what how we go and process this is what I'm getting at,
Right.
and I still don't think you can compare work ethics. Now, I don't think Shane's nearly the workhorse that he was in
No,
his
not
younger
even
days.
close.
Not even, yeah,
Not even
exactly, not
close
even
to
close.
3 years ago.
Right. Well, I think it's been that way for quite some time. But he's already long put in the work to kind of like ride his, what he's done up until this point, if that makes sense. And it's still
Yes.
carrying him very far in tournaments, without
Yeah.
a doubt. But Sky's clutch. Sky's tough. Sky's learned a lot playing with Shane. I think he knows him. I think they know each other very well. They're going to be partners in this year's World Cup
Yeah.
of Pool, obviously.
I think
So
Sky's very comfortable playing Shane.
Without a
Very
doubt he is.
comfortable playing
Yes,
Shane.
yeah. There's nothing going on in here when it comes to playing SVB. Where I think the SVB effect can be that way with a lot of players. Not Filler, but like a lot of other players. Filler's had Shane's number as well. But I think it's a great win for Sky, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I think that he's showing consistency. You're saying that he's got the chance of playing. Oh, he does. So he's playing the winner at Kachi and Tyler. I tell you what, I don't know that kid's going to stop upsetting people, Mike. That kid Claudio is looking good, and Tyler ain't dead yet, but that kid Claudio is playing some great pool, Mike.
Yeah, he is. And it's good, if he wins this match and goes up against Sky, he's going to have to play great pool. From here on in, you start getting into the final 16, final 8, final 4, your A game's going to have to show up. So yeah, it'd be fun to watch.
It's only going to get thicker from here, obviously,
Right.
and it's not going to, as each match goes on, we know that the level of competition is just going to increase, but Sky is built for that type of environment, and he's got, if his break is, let's say 80% of what it can be, then he's going to have success, because from being comfortable on that stage, there's very few guys that I feel are as comfortable as Sky is playing out there. Josh comes to mind. But like, you think about the biggest of biggest matchroom stages, Mike. Now I know he ain't won a major on a matchroom stage, but he's been on the bright lights of the Mosconi Cup, playing on some tough tables in his own right.
Well, yeah, that's not going to get him. That's not going to get him.
So what is going to be the reason why he goes down then? If he goes down, would you say?
Well, he's like anybody else. He's known to make mistakes now and then. Whether it's a loose safety, whether it's a missed shot. So, but when his game's on, there's no one he can't beat.
Well, there's a few guys that I think can kind of hold you by the throat, figuratively speaking, and one of those guys is the bigger brother, not big brother,
Kachi.
but the bigger Kachi.
Yeah,
that match with Niels. That match with Niels, Mike, that I saw, it looked like Niels was ready to play. Niels made a mistake early on, and Kachi does what Kachi does, but Kachi controlled everything, and it's been the same way for the last 3 events, Mike. Even going back to his World 10 Ball Championship.
Yeah.
This
guy's obviously playing with a lot of confidence.
He can front run. He can come from behind.
Yeah.
He can play a tactical game with you. He can keep your ass, in your chair for 20 plus minutes, if not longer. The knock on him was always his pace of play, and is a shot clock going to get him? That's not an issue anymore, Mike.
No.
It's not at all. That guy is hitting the ball so pure, Mike. And he's doing exactly what he wants to do on that table. I don't see any wrinkles in there, and he's looking tough. He still has to get by David, but he's up 8-3 right now.
Right.
If you guys aren't sweating that, so the pride of Spain is, outside of Fran, is on the way out. Anyway, Mike, go ahead.
Let's talk. We were talking about Shane, and is he, kind of, as as big a threat as he had been in recent years or whatever. We kind of talked a little bit about some guys that we're getting used to seeing going out a little earlier than we used to get used to seeing them go out with regularity this year.
We
And
talk about
it's
consistency, Mike.
guys
We've
like,
seen some
yeah,
guys consistently
yeah,
go out at certain
yeah,
spots.
yeah.
Right.
Victor
Like,
Zielinski, Jason
right.
Shaw. If you're talking about Shane, you got to bring these guys up too, for sure. That you know, they're not as like,
They're not living up to the bill.
well, you're just not as shocked anymore when you see them go out.
Nope. No, you're
So
not.
what's
I'm not anyway.
happened? What's happened there?
The Victor thing, he loses to Sanjin, and Sanjin can kind of be here or there with expectations similar to a Victor, right? We thought, okay, this could be his year. He could really have a breakout year. He's number like 6 or 7, maybe 8, maybe even as far as 9 on the Mosconi Cup list, as far as guys who are like coming for those 1 through 5 spots. For my money to start the year, I if you would have told me, who you like to win, I'm picking Victor over Sanjin in that match. But
Right.
Sanjin's tough. We saw that at the World Games. How he can play tough, Mike. And but I don't know. I mean, like, would you be surprised if like a Sanjin goes out in that next round or the following round?
No, not at all. Not
No,
at all. He
me
had his
neither.
kind of little like signature win of the tournament, beating Victor. And so then the next round, you kind of say, well, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he goes out. He's playing Kwok, down Kwok Hong, Shane's buddy.
Matchroom is putting a lot of value on that guy. I'd go out on a limb and say that Asian Open is going to be in Vietnam this year. And I don't know anything, but I'm going to guess that with the amount of attention that guy is getting on their social media platforms and the way that they're
You
putting
think
him
that
up
there's
there.
some marketing strategy here, Mike? Is that what
Listen,
you're saying?
I
Are you
haven't talked to
calling him
anyone.
out?
I don't know anything. I hear no evil, see no evil, but I may speak some evil here or there. But no, just the way that, if you think bigger picture, and I see
Yeah.
everything that's going on with this guy, he's on TikTok, he's on the Instagram Live, all these things. There's something else, going on here. I think that they're very happy that he's continuing to win. I think you're right; it's going to be a tough matchup for Sanjin.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
I
hope
mean,
that if
good.
I'm saying, I hope that if you are Sanjin, you follow up that win with Victor and show that like I can be regularly in a top 8, top 4. I can play on Sundays. I'm that type of player. And I'm not just a Friday player, if that makes sense.
Right.
But
I can get through the weekend.
right, but going back to that other argument, that other topic when it comes to these bigger names that we expect to have great runs, I can't say that we expect more if we haven't seen a whole lot more lately from him, Mike. That's just you can't argue with facts. And on these stages, I haven't seen Victor go deep. I haven't seen Shane go deep in a while since with the World Championship.
No,
Jason.
he played the final against Albin last
Oh,
year.
Albert at the European. You're right, at the European. Yeah, but how long ago?
And
That was
he
a year ago now.
He was final 8 when into Kachi at the World 10 Ball. He's had, he's not going out. I mean, round of 64, that's tough. You get the single elimination, you have a killer, in the round of 32. You don't expect that, but he's usually still, 16 or 8. But guys like Jason or Victor, they can go out in the round of 64 in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jason almost went out in that round before in the round of 64. He was down early on in that match.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we said it yesterday, Mike. Is it news at this point? And
no, it's not news anymore. It's not a headline thing that's like Jason Shaw's out.
I see it.
32.
I see it, and I'm like, okay, yeah. I mean, I kind of. Yeah, exactly. Albin comes back from a big deficit to make it to the round of 16, Mike. Some other storylines. Federer's cruising.
Federer's cruising. Maciel took Jason out, so it'll be a tough match for him.
That's a really underrated player in Daniel Maciel. That I think, I'm not saying Federer's had, Federer's had an easy ride because he's had to face Wayne Can, but these last two matchups haven't been that tough. Justin Sajic and Dennis Grabe. Okay, Martial is going to be a test for Federer because
Yeah.
Martial is a really difficult out for anybody. You know, before he was kind of like that unknown, maybe like how you would equate to Gangflot right now, Mike. Kind of I don't know who he is, but I've seen the name here or there. No, we've seen a lot of consistency from that gentleman from
Yeah.
from Poland. Um, I think he's going to be very difficult on the filler Gangfly match 8-4. Mike Josh is looking to get out of this year's Spanish Open, which will be a great surprise.
8-4. That's a big score. But you talk about Kachi. If anybody can come back from 8-4 in about
Well,
23 minutes,
we,
it's Josh. So
well, we've seen a lot of
a
comebacks
lot of
today. We've
comebacks.
seen a lot of hill matches today.
Yeah, been great fun.
Niels almost came back on Kachi, Mike, and then again we said it. We said how we dogged the ball earlier, to make it
Yeah,
hill in the double elimination round. He's got a chance to make it. I think it was 9-7, no, or yeah,
yeah, he had a
nine,
chance to
yeah,
make a 9-8 break-in.
and break, and he was breaking really good. I mean, he
Yeah,
was breaking really solid. Has a chance to. He's on the 9 ball, overruns it a little bit. Another miss, Mike.
yeah,
Another
yeah,
miss on a 9 ball.
right. And he had that miss in was it the
UK
UK
Open.
Open or was it the yeah?
UK
So
Open, Mike. Yeah.
So, and it's interesting because what a lot of this is, we looked at the brackets when they first broke down to 64, and we're like, man, there's a lot of top players in there. It looks like they could match up later in the thing. Now you're starting to look at some of these brackets. You're like, geez, Sanjin's got a chance if he can get back clock playing the
Listen,
winner of Mark
this is what happened.
Bistrovach and Yanni Yuski. And you're like, are
I
you
got a
kidding me?
message
It's
from
got to look
Mike
pretty
5 minutes
juicy.
after the bracket comes out. I get a message from Mike, and he's saying these are the possible round of 16 matchups, and sends me like it's nothing but chalk from top to bottom,
Well,
chalk.
if we
Fran and
look at this, it's not what I was predicting, but it's what was setting up, which was good because a lot of times you get these 64 brackets, and one 8-person bracket has 4 of the top 8 players in it, and only one of them is going to get out of the bracket. So it
right.
was nice that they were nice and spaced out for
Yeah, I
this
mean,
round of 64, and I thought there's a good chance. If Chalk follows it all, we'd have some really juicy 16 and 8 matches, and then then shit goes sideways, and next thing Mark Bistrovach is playing Yanni Yuski for a shot in the final 8.
well, this is why I wanted to do a show yesterday afternoon, and I was gonna go. And the plan was, okay, we'll take each area of 4 players, and we'll say who do we think out of the 4 is gonna come out, and that's how I wanted to do it. Joey, his internet stopped working shockingly, and Mike was in bed by like 3 p.m. So there was no there was no getting a hold of Panozo, and I had no one else to do a show with. But that's what I was thinking about doing. And a lot of these guys, like you're saying, Mike, they wouldn't have been names that we would have picked to come out of those
No,
4 areas. But I want to do the same thing with this round of 16, Mike. Matches are finishing up the last couple anyway. So, but we'll
yeah,
start up top, Mike. If you're looking at and
Bistrovach
I'll
and Yuski.
Bishop Bosch and Yanni Uski, Mike. Who do you like?
I
I mean, Uski took down Wu, so just
Yeah,
just
no,
for
that's
just for
I
reference for
think
you
I
guys.
probably would. I've seen him in the last year or so, and I've seen him take down a couple names here and there in a couple of these tournaments. He plays pretty strong, so yeah, I would take Uski.
I take the other side, and I would take it quick, Mike. Mark is a
Okay,
very difficult out,
yeah, no, he
similar
is.
to that of Maciel. He's a grinder of a player.
Yeah,
That's
but I've
he's
seen he can look bad too. So I mean, who knows?
well, yeah, we'll see. We'll do something friendly on it. Working our way down. From there, you got Huang versus Sanjin. Mike, who do you like and why in that matchup in the round of 16?
I haven't seen Sanja much in the tournament. I pick him. I've seen Clock. Dance around death a couple times already. Both, 10-9 in his first 2 matches, round of 64 and round of 32. And how the hell he made it through that last rack against Conrad is anybody's guess because he mistakenly 3-railed in a 2-ball and
It was
looked like he
dead.
was going to
It was dead.
and looked like he was going to go out from there and found a way to botch it up. and then Conrad found a way to botch it up and give. They were each at the table, I think, 3 times in the final rack, and
Unbelievable.
so it was you know he didn't look all that impressive closing out that match. Um, I just wonder how many 10-9 matches he can sweat and stay alive. So I'm going to go with Sanjay.
Well, we've seen Dwok be a tough out in a number of
Yeah,
events, not just matchroom events, but in Predator events. He's had Shane's number a few times. Like the days of him being, a no name Asian player, I think are behind us at this point.
yeah,
He's he's more marquee than anything else. I think from an experience standpoint, I'd kind of chalk it up to him in that category between the two. Um, Sanjin, I don't know what I'm gonna get. That's my issue with it.
no,
And yeah, and there's some
but
times
the
where I think
upside is really up there.
a million percent. I'm not going to argue that at all. But if I'm thinking about just consistency and comfortability out there, and from a talent standpoint, maybe talent wise, Sanjin's got his number, but
Yeah,
Dwok's kind of that grinder in his own right. When he
yeah.
works through, when he can pick apart racks. I would take the Vietnamese star for a little bit as well.
I like watching him play. I mean, he's
Because you never know what's going to happen, Mike. That's the problem. That's the reason why you like
for
watching him
one of the
play.
Asian players, he shows a lot more
What
emotion.
emotion? Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that. I mean, if you look at him and you watch him walk around the table, okay, this guy probably doesn't have any personality at all. But then you see him,
I think it's just a language
pump his
barrier
fist,
more than
shake
anything
his
else, Mike.
head, throw his hands down, whatever it is. He shows a little more, emotion, which I do like. Then you go down, you've got Albin, who sneaks by Silva at a big come from behind match and gets, that was the 8-man bracket that looked to favor one guy. I thought it was going to be Moritz myself, and he got drilled. But Albin goes through Natberg, Silva, and now gets Pius Labutis. Good player, but a pretty
No,
nice,
hold on a minute. I want to
pretty
stop you
nice draw from
on the
Albin.
Labutis because there was an argument in the UK Open where someone had messaged old Mike and said, "You know what? The Americans are only through because there's so many top players at the European Championship." And Mike's, I'm gonna paraphrase here, but Mike's response is, "You're right. If Labutis would have been there, everybody would have been out of the
Yeah,
tournament or
yeah.
something to that effect."
Shane, Sky, and
Yeah.
Shane would have been going around the 64 if
Out.
Pius Labutis
All
was there.
Labutis would have had their scalps on his back for sure. Um, Albin's free rolling at this point, and he's also very decorated. And we've seen before where if you dodge a bullet, you can go on a run. I remember I
Yeah,
saw that
and
the year that
Albin's
Kachi won the
famous
World
for
Ten
that.
Ball. He is.
Albin's famous for that, almost losing to somebody he shouldn't lose to, and then all of a sudden, if he gets to that final 8, final 16, he becomes really
Look
dangerous.
out. Look out because he's a
So he's
closer,
in a good
Mike.
spot there. Although if he beats Labutis, then he gets the winner of Gorst and Maciel, which is one of the better matchups there in that round,
I
in the
think
round of 16.
it's as sexy as you get. Maciel's not maybe that name yet, but I think he's got that ability to be a
Well, I
name.
mean, he's a Polish player, so everybody thinks of Polish players, and they think Conrad, and they think Victor, and they
Yeah,
think
but he's not even on
you
the World Cup
know,
of Pool team. They're gonna have Wojciech and Victor playing in the World Cup of Pool for
yeah,
for them, Mike. So,
yeah,
but I think that matchup is sneaky good. Federer is looking very comfortable on a matchroom stage, and that was the big question mark for him.
yeah,
I think that question mark is gone, and but it is not going to be an easy out against that Polish kid. It is not, Mike. So I think you're right. That's going to be a great matchup, and I hope that we do end up getting that Albin versus
Federer.
that Albin versus Federer matchup because I think that would be as solid a matchup as you can ask for as well. Um, Keep on cruising along, Mike. Sky's gonna play
Yeah,
the winner of Claudio and Tyler. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that Big Kachi makes it through. Mike, who do you like?
um, I like I mean, the kid's playing great, and he's kind of the flavor of the day type of thing too, where it's like Clenty's younger brother, and he's doesn't have any pressure on him at all, and he's beaten some good players. Um, I
From
think Sky's,
beginning to end, Mike, he's beaten solid players.
yeah. So I still like Sky in this one. I think Sky's playing really well. You know, Sky playing confident. I like the way he looks right now.
Well, I I take the other side. It's not anything against Sky per se. It's just more of what I've seen from Claudio. Um, Big Kachi is going to be a tough out for anybody. I feel like,
Yeah, sure,
but the intangible is it would be the big elephant in the room because I know what I can expect when it gets tough. I know when I can expect when it gets tight. I know what I can expect when you got to come with a big shot. And all those categories you would chalk up to none other than Sky Woodward. So
sure.
um, a million percent, and it's not, and there's no debate about that. So, um, but I don't know, man. The unknown, Mike, and we're gonna see if that kid can continue to make a name for himself on the biggest stages. How sick of a story would that be if that kid continues to win
Yeah, no,
all
it
in
would
this
be. It
event?
would be big. I'm looking at who he played, and he's played good players, but he hasn't played Sky to me. He beat Zhang, which was is a young kid, but still a great talent. Sufi, lightning in a bottle or not. Badr
Remains to be
Alawadi,
seen.
Badr Alawadi. So, and
Wait, but hold on a
then
minute. You can't wait. Time out. You can't say that they're not Sky, and you're mentioning three guys that have done better in matchroom events than Sky has. What are we talking about here? Every one of those guys have had deeper runs. I feel like in an event than Sky has.
oh, Sky made the Final Four in the last matchroom event. How's that?
Well, Sufi was in the finals of a world championship lately, Mike.
Right. And
Checkmate.
we haven't seen him since.
Well,
We haven't
I know.
seen him. We haven't
That
seen
was
him
that.
since. Better out of Wally, nice final eight guy.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that none of those guys are, like were heavy
Zeng's
in
won in all
real.
Japan. I know that was a few years back, but Zeng can play some as
They've all
well.
won a tournament. Everybody's won a tournament. Pretty much everyone won a tournament,
Right,
and,
but
and
you
good for
can't
them.
you
I'm
you
not
can't
saying that he
compare
was not the
Illinois
underdog
Open
just because he
to
won it.
all Japan is what I'm saying. You know what? You can't the bar table A ball event that I don't get it, Mike. I'm just saying just give
I don't think any of the matches he won before this set people on tilt.
you talking about Claudio.
Yeah. I don't think any of these matches he won before this, everyone went, holy cow, I can't believe this guy lost to Kachi's brother.
I think so.
No. Who?
No. Well, you act like he came in here. He came in the event with kind of being there was some smoke, right? They're building him up a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
Kachi was anyway, but
Yeah.
but now looking back on it, he wasn't building him up. He was just telling it like it was, So, but from a name standpoint, the unknown who's never played, and we talk about this all the time, right? The conditions and all this stuff. We've never seen that kid perform playing 9 ball, playing on 4-inch pockets, playing on a matchroom stage, playing against big names. He's done A, B, C, and D. And I think it's, Sky's going to have his ends. Obviously, Sky is much more accomplished. But that kid, Claudio, has taken down some decent names in his own right. And,
Yeah.
I
Decent
think.
names for sure. Decent names for sure. And he's obviously a great player. I'm not downplaying that at all. I just think sooner or later, those runs, and I mean, Hollywood only gets you so far. And I would think in the next round, that's where it would end. That's what I'm betting.
Okay, so you've seen a lot of talent, right? And it's far too early to maybe do this, but do you think that kid's more flash in the pan versus his game can sustain?
If you ask me if I think who's more of a flash in the pan, Claudio Kachi or Mohamed Sufi, I would say Mohamed Sufi is more of a flash in the pan.
Well, I didn't say that like that, but damn,
Well,
Mike.
no,
Now I know.
well, no. I mean, we're talking about guys
Yeah.
who didn't, guys who were sneaking in.
Well, it's a little
Omar
unfair
14
because we've seen a
years
little bit
ago.
more since then of
Yeah.
Sufi. So
Right.
that's that's the argument. So
And
if I were to say,
who knows whether we're going to see Claudio Kachi in more events. I mean, if nine ball's not his game, why all of a sudden would he be, a staple on the nine ball tour? I mean, Eklund says he's a snooker player. So is he going to play snooker? Is he going to all of a sudden switch to nine ball and be at all these events? So who knows? Who knows how much we're going to see him?
I mean, as marketable as that could be, if he goes on a deep run, they
Yeah,
might fly him over, and he might be in every event because he'll be
yeah.
invited to
Well,
everything.
he's also a Kachi, and we know from Eklund that they do
E-
what they want,
Easy
when
there,
they want,
amigo. Right? Like you
how
told me,
they want.
easy there, amigo. Yeah, no, you're right about that.
It's
Right?
just different animal. So
I tell you who's sweating over there. It's Baser, because he better have a good performance at the World Cup of Pool, or next year for sure it's going to be
Kachi and
big.
Kachi against Ko and
It's going
Ko.
to yeah, Big Kachi and Big Kachi on that World Cup of Pool team. All right, Mike, let's keep on cruising. Cole Pinyi against Naoki Owen.
Good match. It's good to
Yes, it is
see.
pretty great.
I'm happy to see Oi. Oi has been kind of like a little bit inconsistent in the past year as well.
Agreed.
Uh, but it's good to see him, take down Mario. So a good win for him. And we know what Big Co's been playing like all year. So he's got his hands full there for sure. I would say he's a couple rack underdog for sure, right?
Yeah, maybe as a push, maybe two as a push, somewhere around
Yeah.
there.
So
But for
yeah,
sure,
he's gonna have to come with a great match and have Ko not play perfect to get through there.
well, uh, I can't argue with you on any of those points you made about either player. I think you hit the nail on the head for both. I'm with you 1,000,000%. So since we're both picking Cole, Naoki's probably going to win by 4 racks.
Yes,
It's just how it works around here, guys. So,
we're
um,
kind of like the streaming version of Dom Dunn.
yeah, for sure. No, a lot of what we've seen, lately is how we're going to base it on, and um, we know what we've seen of Kopinyi. He's a dangerous guy. That break though is the only question mark, because he could get some issues as the event rises up and you start getting, like Poland says, about the shot clock and referees. Well, then you can start having some effect when it comes to how you manage your racks. And then on top of that, I think Ko has had an issue with soft breaking for the last few events, if you're going to ask me, very candidly. So, but he's also had a lot of success, and I'm not knocking what he's been able to accomplish, but I think that it hasn't been addressed. I think it should be addressed, if he were to continue it, and he's got a big break in his back pocket. That's the other thing, But I think he, a lot like Francisco, just tries to finesse it to control more than what he needs to. But if he were to let it go a little bit, I think every other tool that he has in there can just as well ride him through that wave
Right.
of
Yeah.
of that
Until
man.
he gets up.
Right,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Right.
Bigger Kachi against Joao, the gentleman from Portugal. Mike, I know you're going to pick a Clint.
I mean, I'd pick a Clint against pretty much anybody in the field at this point, much less a guy from Portugal who if I tripped over him in the street, I wouldn't know that he was even a pool player. So I have no idea what to expect from him. He beat Kazakis. He beat Petri Makinen, beat him bad. So he's got some game, and he's riding a good little streak. So, but talk about going to need everything to go right for you. That's a match where he's going to need everything to go right for him. And he's going to have to make Kachi play with an eye patch or something, because it's going to be that's a tall order.
Clint suffocates you, and way back when it might have been his pace of play that might have bored you to death, but now it's his execution that does.
Yeah. He's just
And
an
and
intimidating
not
guy.
bored you to death, but like
walk
just
up to the
he
table. It's just like,
he can make you sit down for a
yeah.
long time. He play and when you do get up, you're not getting up with a clear shot. I think from an intelligence standpoint, how he handles like the tactical side of things, it Clint's just for me grown leaps and bounds that I've seen this year, Mike. It's
Yeah.
and maybe
Yeah.
it's been unbelievable. From him, I think he's easily got to be a top, at a minimum, top 3 favorite, probably alongside Ko and Federer. From these players that we've mentioned so far, Fisnick says Filler and Tyler are trying to come back. Let me take a look at the score here.
Well,
Five
Philly's
eight
down 8-6. He's only
eight
down
six.
8-6 at this point.
Well,
So
that's nothing for Josh, but you
no,
got to keep the
if
guy off
Neil
of
hopes to
two.
get there, he's got to get to the hill in a hurry.
Yeah, we know.
We
Well,
know what Josh can do.
that's the guy who everybody's kind of hoping without hoping that he gets out of this tournament, because with FSR and Filler out of the tournament, it's open season. I feel like for any of these bigger names
Yeah.
outside of those two. So, my dark horse Mike Dang is going to face the winner of Josh and Gangflot. Let's just say for the sake of an argument that Filler comes back, Mike, and faces
Okay.
Dang. What do you say?
It should be a fun one to watch. From what we've seen today, he's solid player. So, he's like his chances to keep up with Josh. But then, you look ahead past that. If Josh can get through this match and the next, you could have another one of those Josh Clenty matchups, which, Eklund had Josh's number pretty good in the last, so far this year.
That'd be
In
a
big
really
moments, Final Fours and finals, right? Semifinals and finals.
semifinals
Drilled him both times. So
with ease,
yeah,
Mike.
yeah. So we got a lot to look forward to there. I think let's assume Kachi gets through the Portuguese kid. Whoever he plays coming out of that other side is going to make it a pretty interesting match.
All right, Mike. Who do you think is going to be there, at the top and at the bottom after what you've seen?
I'm going to say Federer and Eklund. Sorry, buddy. Sorry, I took your picks or what?
You did. You really did. No, I mean, I'm kind of took the wind out of my stomach there.
That's what you get for asking.
I can't agree. I mean, I can't disagree with you. I'm sorry. I think that's who it's. I think that's the train that we're on. I think if anything, Federer's got that, that look in his eye, when it comes to how he's playing out there. At
It's
least
what
a
we've
little bit
all
that I've
been
seen.
waiting for, right? This is what we've all been waiting for, and we want to see it happen. We know sooner or later it's going to happen. We're just, we want to be there watching when it does. So
I pray to God matches don't start at 10 a.m. local time, because that means I got to get up again at 3 a.m. I'm hoping that it doesn't, but we will see later on. Or maybe if there's times on the bracket already, which there is not.
there is
TBC. TBC. So more than likely we'll probably have to get up at 3 a.m. We appreciate every one of you guys for tuning in. You guys can check out all the action on DAZN, for table 1. Table 2 is on Matchroom Multisport, YouTube. Mike, what else you got before we get out of here?
No, I've been enjoying this event immensely. Really good matches. Today's been a great day for close matches, come from behind matches.
Oh, amazing day, Mike.
Great shots. A lot of drama. So yeah, it's all good. It should only go up from there.
Yeah, I mean they're getting an A, Mike, for everything. Without a doubt, they're getting an A for everything, and from top to bottom, it really has been fantastic. The talent and a great mix of guys making a name for themselves and names that we want to see are making it through, Mike. And we thought that day one was great. Well, today kind of very much trumped that. With all these hill matches and that's in a winter break, which is even more crazy.
What we're getting to see is that the more these events there are, and the more players are in all of these events playing over and over and over, it's harder and harder for these favorites to reach the final 8, the final 16. I mean, this is not the first tournament this year where we've seen a lot of guys disappear before the final 16. So, it's showing that it's going to get tougher and tougher to win these events, which to me is what's making Kachi's run this year so far, on par with Fran's run last year. I mean, if he comes through this and wins something like this,
easy.
No,
Fran
I'm just
is in a
saying.
category all on his own, Mike.
Well, he is, but you got world. So far he's got World 10 ball on his list for this year. And he's got a European Open,
right?
So,
but you can't just compare him to that, because like I mentioned, do more first, and then we can have that conversation. I don't
Yeah,
want to just be a pure victim of the moment so
just
far.
saying
Yeah,
he's on that trajectory. It's only July. Okay, he's got 2 or 3 or 4 more big tournaments. If he continues to play like this in all of those, he's in the conversation. It's what I'm saying is it's really difficult right now to be a dominant player, tournament after tournament,
agreed. Yeah, agreed.
and he's doing it, which is what Fran did last year. Fran did it the whole year. So Kachi's, he's got a good head of steam going on a pretty special year, and we know how big he is, and we know how tough it is to stop a locomotive like that when he's on a run.
I'm not gonna argue with you, Mike. I agree 1,000,000%. We appreciate all you guys for tuning in. I'm gonna go back and sweat the rest of these matchups. We'll have Mike. Are you gonna be free tomorrow by chance?
Yeah, it should be.
All right, you guys. We'll come back tomorrow. Thanks so much for everybody for tuning in, and yeah, we'll see you guys later.